Hello, my friends. Welcome to week number 3 of the 100K challenge, your journey to $1 million or more. As a reminder, these videos are designed to show you exactly what I did week by week to go from basically zero income at the beginning of my career. In fact, really like zero income on year 5 of my career to breaking the 7-figure mark. Now, these videos are for any advisor at any stage in the journey, whether you are a lead advisor that owns your own practice, whether you're a Gen 2 or junior type advisor, whether you're a paraplanner, whether you're a college student, whatever the case may be. We're at different stages in this journey, but we all can progress along the journey because at the end of the day, the only way to make more money is to deliver more value, whether that's to clients, prospects, an employer, another advisor, yourself, like whatever the case may be. We've got to up the game, each one of us individually. And the great news is that we can all take steps forward, right? We might not be able to take leaps forward, but we can always take steps forward. So this week in our journey, we are going to look specifically at the concept of delayed gratification and what you can be doing this week, really brass tacks on how to make a progress forward. So let's do a quick reminder from week 2. You can find that video in the show notes below. You should have last week finished the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Attend a live comedy show at a local comedy club. Be standing up in your Zoom meetings. I know that might seem contradictory because I'm sitting right now as I'm doing this recording, but I would stand if this were a Zoom meeting, and I'm quite practiced at sitting up in my chair. You are also going to reach out to 10 centers of influences, and you're going to get a clock on your conference room wall behind the shoulder of your client with a little Q on there, a green dot or something to remind you to not be an ass, which is an acronym for ask questions, sit up, and smile. So here, let's go into what we're going to do this week. This week, we're going to focus on delayed gratification, making the mindset shift from employee to entrepreneur. And again, this applies even if you are an employee, even if you're getting a regular paycheck, you can still adapt an entrepreneur's mindset because you'll have to have one to get further along this journey. And some of us who are entrepreneurs still have an employee mindset, which we have to let go of. Like you're not going to get to mid or high 6 figures or even 7 figures until you can act like an entrepreneur. We're going to work on filling the prospect pipeline. We're going to always work on our scripts. One of the things I struggled with earlier in my career is I didn't have a good answer to anything. And so I feared every objection, we'll call it that, every question that came up. And because I didn't have confidence, people detected that right away. And I didn't have any ability to close prospects or to get clients to follow my advice. We're going to look at our professional development, our reading assignment for this week. One of my all-time favorite books, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, who was indirectly a mentor of mine. And then we'll do a bonus on how to look better on Zoom, which might feel like a vanity thing. But again, I want to always stack the deck in my favor. I'm not like a naturally handsome guy or anything. And so anything I can do to stack the deck in my favor. If you're an unbelievably handsome man or beautiful woman, I guess you don't need this step for the rest of us. Let's take all the help that we can get. Okay. Let's jump into delayed gratification. So these stats on the left of the screen, these come from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It comes from the federal government, saying that in the United States, there are some 300,000 financial advisors, and the median income, meaning halfway through, if we divide them in half, halfway through is $102,000 a year of income with half of those advisors. So 150,000, let's call it 160,000, making less than 100,000 a year, and 160,000 doing more than 100,000 a year. Probably only about 1% or about 3,000 advisors have crossed into the 7 figures. However, there's not a limit on how many advisors can make 7 figures. Like this isn't a finite number. It's just the number that are willing to do that work. So what separates those two? There's been a lot of studies, a lot of research on peak performance, et cetera. But something that comes up again and again is the ability to delay gratification, which is I'm going to do something today that I won't get a benefit from for some time, days, weeks, months, years, whatever the case may be. Now you're already practiced with this, right? Like you're wearing your seatbelt because if by chance you ever get in a car accident down the road, you want to be safety belted in. If you're eating healthily, eating unhealthy one day, even lots of days, will not have any likely immediate change on your life. It will take time for that. Let's translate this to financial advisors. If you have an employee mindset, you're working your 8 hours a day, you're 5 days a week, and every week or every other week, you're getting paid for that time. So your gratification is being delayed to 2 weeks. Like you work and within 2 weeks, you get paid for that work. When we have an entrepreneur's mindset, when we're trying to get to mid, high, 6 figures, 7 figures, we're delaying gratification for weeks, months, or years. We're doing these reps again and again and again, knowing that someday it will pay off. But when that someday is, could be a long ways away. And the hardest part is we don't know how far it will be away. It will feel like eternity, and then it will kind of happen overnight. Thankfully, delayed gratification is a skill that we can learn, we can develop. I suppose some people are born with it. I don't know if that's true or not, but we can develop it. And so we've got our coffee cup here. Coffee is for closers. This is from an old Alec Baldwin movie. And the flaw with this idea that coffee is for closers is we don't want to reward ourselves on outcomes. We want to reward ourselves on input. So I can't directly control if a prospect says yes or no, but I can control how many prospects I reach out to, how practiced I am for that prospect meeting, all of those things. So I want to reward myself for immediate action, but also practice delaying gratification. All right, what does that mean for this week? Here's what it means for this week. During this week, before you're going to do any kind of reward activity, we're going to do one more rep. So if you want to go get another cup of coffee, or even go use the bathroom, or have lunch, or leave for the day, or get any kind of dopamine hit, which would be like social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, perusing the internet, whatever it is, anytime you're going to go do that, before you do that, do one more rep. Now, we're going to talk about what some of those reps are going to be this week, but it could be one more phone call. Excuse me. It could be one more practice of a script. It could be one more update on your prospect process, like whatever it is you're kind of avoiding doing. We all have these activities we need to do that we're avoiding. Always do one more before we take any of these activities. Like you're going to go get coffee anyway, or go to the bathroom, or get lunch, or whatever the case may be. Just use that as a reminder, like, oh, hey, I want to go get coffee. Before I do, let me do one more rep. Or I want to go check my email. All right, before I do, let me do one more rep. It gets you in that habit of, I earn my rewards. Now, on the converse side of that, we want to also give ourselves rewards. So there's a picture here of Reese's peanut butter cups. When I was trying to develop the habit of delayed gratification, and I was doing 10 outreaches a day, I would stack Reese's peanut butter cups, these little mini ones, on my desk. I would have a stack of 10. And every time I did that activity, I could move that stack from the one not done yet to the done pile. Or if I wanted to, I could eat one. Now, I wouldn't recommend eating 10 Reese's peanut butter cups a day, or maybe any, depending on your goal, but having some kind of reward. When I get done with this hard task, I'm going to do some kind of reward. I'm going to go get my lunch. I'm going to leave for the day. I'm going to walk around and stretch, whatever the case may be. So this is this balance of, before I get rewards, I need to do an activity, but also anytime I do an uncomfortable activity, I want to give myself some kind of rewards. This might seem silly, but it works incredibly well. Almost every top performer I know does some version of this consciously or subconsciously. This could again be like, hey, before I leave Friday to go golfing, or before I leave for the afternoon, like these are the things I'm always going to do. Don't rely on willpower for this. And then each week, you're going to want to set your future self up for success. So we have this tendency to say, I'll wait till next week to do this thing, but then next week me has to do that thing. So each week, do one thing above and beyond that your future self will thank you for. You can put reminders for yourself for this. This will be hard to remember. It's a hard habit to break or to establish. And so you can put a rubber band on your coffee cup, or on your wrist, or wherever the case may be, a pop-up, a Post-it note on your computer. There's lots of ways to handle this. Okay. Focus area number 2, if it is out of sight, it is out of mind. A financial advisor I coached, a very, very successful advisor, he recently passed $1 billion in assets under management, all of which he built himself. I was in his office doing some coaching, and it happened to be on the day that he reviewed his prospect process. And every single week, his entire team sat down. They physically printed the prospect tracker, which is in Excel, like you're seeing here. And then they would go through it line by line as a team. Excuse me. Everyone on the team would be in that meeting, and they would review what the last action item was for every prospect. And then they would establish what the next action item would be. So every prospect had a scheduled next action date and a recording of when the last action is. Why is this so important? Otherwise, we forget about prospects. We think we followed up with them last week. It's been 6 weeks. And every time that gets delayed, it lowers the probability that the prospect is going to say yes, because they're going to realize that you don't actually care that much about them. If you're going to let it go weeks or months between contacts, what you're saying is, I don't really care. Now, you might be thinking, I do really care. I really want this person as a prospect. Well, my friends, talk is cheap. So this is an example of the prospect tracker we used. I had to do 2 screenshots so it would fit in one page. And we just have their name, where they came from. If they're paying for appointments, you can do that, the status, and then each of these steps along the way. Okay, so your action for this week is every single week when you're printing your paper calendar. Remember, we're always printing our paper calendars for the week. Every time you print your paper calendar, also print the prospect tracker, and then you can update it throughout the week. You're going to want to confirm the last action item that was taken and that date, and the next action item that will be taken. Hopefully that's this week. But if it's some future week, like they said, like, hey, we're going to be on vacation for 3 weeks, then call us. Make sure that date is there, not just, hey, I'm going to remember. Of course, you're also tracking all these notes in your CRM, but I've yet to find a CRM that does a good prospect tracker. And so this spreadsheet just keeps it super simple. One way or a couple ways you can reach out to prospects, like they're in this limbo stage. They said, hey, they're going to think about it, interview other advisors, whatever they may say. You can reach out and invite them to upcoming events. You can send them a copy of Nick Murray's book, Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth, which I give out to every prospect with a small note. You could offer to review their tax return. You could let them know about some kind of new piece of legislation or tax law they need to be aware of. Find an excuse to reach out to them. Ideally, at a minimum, every other week, at least for the first couple of months until they tell you to go away. So print this thing out every week, have it on your desk. It will make an incredible difference. Even if it's blank, by the way, my friends, like if you don't have any prospects currently in your pipeline, then focus on the leads section. We'll talk next week about the Dream 100 idea. So you can put leads, even just people that you hope to get as a prospect someday, and what you can do to kind of move that along. Okay, focus area number 3. This is related to the prospect tracker. This week, you want to get the word out. You want to reach out to 10 people this week to invite them to an upcoming event that you have. This is an image of the annual food truck event we do for our team every summer for our clients. And so right now, or if this was coming up, we would be inviting clients individually, inviting prospects individually, inviting centers of influence individually, inviting anyone we know. And you can do this in person. You can do it over the phone. You can do it by mailing it with a Post-it note where you write, hey, Bob, just wanted to personally invite you to our upcoming event that I thought you would enjoy. But my friends, these have to be personalized. They cannot just be some generic mail merge. I know you think that's going to save time. It just won't work. More specifically for our action items, send 10. Again, this could be a client education event, an appreciation event, a prospecting event, a seminar, whatever the case may be. If you don't have any on the books, then I would replace this with, we need to get some kind of event that I can invite people to on the books. This can be as easy as like co-hosting an event with the Chamber of Commerce for a wine tasting and inviting people to the wine tasting. We'll talk in future videos about doing more of these events, and we'll talk more about networking in the Dream 100. But we need to get these 10 reps out. If you don't have any event, then reach out to 10 more centers of influence like we talked about last week. So this can be clients, prospects, centers of influence, friends, your local network, the local who's who. You can invite the mayor. You can invite whomever you'd like. The key is we need to get 10 out of people that you wouldn't mind having at your event. Don't invite your buddy Larry, who's kind of a bum, who you wouldn't want to ever have as a client, right? Invite people that you like and respect, and ideally who would potentially be a good client. Okay. Fourth focus for this week, the messenger is the message. And we're going to focus specifically on the client or prospect concern that comes up whenever the market goes down, which is, hey, I'm worried that because of whatever, I'm worried that because of the new tax law or inflation or tariffs or the president or China or whatever it is, that the economy or the markets will collapse, right? So any iteration of the world is going to end soon. Often the question behind this question that the client is trying to ask is, Mr. Advisor, are you still confident in our strategy? That's really what the question is behind this question. And advisors miss this, and 2 big problems happen. And I used to make this mistake all the time. One is they would mistake that the specific item is the issue at hand. And so they would try to debate, debunk, overcome this specific issue. Let's use tariffs as an example. I even saw this as a whole article, like 27 responses when clients ask about tariffs. No client, my friends, is asking about tariffs. They might use the word tariff. What they're asking about is, am I going to run out of money and die? And so we need to be as confident in responding to these types of questions or concerns as we would be if the client said, hey, listen, Matthew, what's your address? Right? Like, I need to respond to this with confidence. If I verbally vomit, it's not going to help. If I'm not confident, it's not going to help. So very first response to every client question or concern that comes up is some iteration of, that's a really good question. Please tell me a little bit more about your concern. So that's a really good question. So I'm worried that tariffs are going to collapse the economy. You know what? That is a really good concern. Could you tell me just a little bit more about that? So a couple of things will happen here. One, it will give you time to think, right? Like to gather your thoughts. The other is it will sort of force the client to get past some kind of headline that they just saw on the news today, right? So the client is going to say whatever they're going to say. Hey, I think, I'm going to use tariffs as an example still. I think that because of tariffs, the global economy will shut down and China will retaliate and all of these things will happen. And again, I'll acknowledge that. See, that is really a scary thing. Like that's definitely a possible outcome that would be very concerning. And then I'll do one of two things, or both, depending on the client. I will turn, in fact, let me advance the slide. I will turn to the wall chart. We talked about this last week. I'll turn to this wall chart on the wall and I'll say, hey, how do you think this compares to previous crises we've experienced? Because this wall chart has some previous crises on it. COVID, credit crisis, the financial crisis, the tech bubble, whatever. How do you think it compares to those? Like, do you remember I remember being terrified during the financial crisis, right? And yet it worked its way out. So whatever this is, like, how long do you think it might take it to work its way out? I think it'll take a year. I think it'll take 3 years. Any number, by the way, short of 5 years, we can go to the war chest. Great news. We have a 5-year buffer in the war chest. The other thing I like to respond to, and this has to be practiced because it has to come out as wisdom and not like a rebuttal, not like a gotcha, like, I got you. You're so dumb. I can't believe you think this. It comes out as wisdom. And so what I'll do is, let's use tariffs again as an example. I'll say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, tariffs are a real concern. And it seems like everyone involved with them is only trying to make it worse. Do you think that when the board of Apple computers gets together, whenever they get together, later this month, let's say, do you think when the board gets together, they're going to be concerned about tariffs? Yeah, I think so, right? Apple, as an example, they do all sorts of stuff internationally. I would bet they're really concerned. Is there any chance that when the board of Apple gets together and discusses tariffs, they're going to just throw up their hands and say, you know what, scrub the next iPhone. Let's quit making MacBooks. Like, let's just stop. No, I don't think so either. I don't think so. I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, we have some of the smartest people in the world that work for us. Let's figure out a solution to this problem. Now, could tariffs cause the economy to go into recession? Sure, they could. Could it cause the markets to go down or go down dramatically? For sure, it could. Will it be the end of the world? Like, is this something that's so bad that humanity can't figure out a solution for? No, I don't really think so. And then we've had this discussion, right? This works for, again, anything. So whatever question you've been getting or that you're afraid to get, practice answering this question. Practice asking an additional question to get clarity. Hey, tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me what concerns you most about that, or tell me what you think the outcome of this might be. Empathize with whatever their concern may be. No matter how trivial or silly it might seem to you, it's the client's concern. Yeah, that is really concerning. I have thought about that. I've seen those headlines too. It is really concerning. It does make me wonder, like, who's making these decisions. And then I have my response that I can always go back to. It can be the wall chart, which I really like. It can be the board of Apple computers. Another advisor I coached, he uses Target, the store, as an example. He says, do you think this will result in Target not selling bananas and diapers next week? No, I don't think. I feel like Target's going to find a way to solve this. And I love going back to the war chest, that 5-year buffer that we have in the war chest. If you're not familiar with the war chest, I've done other videos on this, but it's one you're going to want to practice as well. And you need to do this until you're as confident in the answer to this question as you are your own name or your address. Okay. Focus number 5 for this week. This is our professional development. We always want to get better as a skill. So this picture on the left here is a gentleman by the name of Chet Holmes. He unfortunately passed away back in 2012. As a reminder, I started my career in 2003. Chet Holmes was a brilliant sales and marketing person. Now, sometimes advisors they cringe at this idea of sales. Like all communications is sales, all communications. And the people that are the best communicators deliver the most value and therefore are paid the most. So early in my career, Chet Holmes sold a DVD set. I took out a new credit card to afford it, and it was like a 30 DVD set. It looks kind of like this one that I found a picture of. And I watched those again and again and again. Remember, that was before there was podcasts and YouTube, and so there wasn't a lot of access to content like you're consuming right now. I watched this stuff again and again and again. Unfortunately, I somehow lost those DVDs, or I lent them out to somebody and never got them back. But before he passed away, Chet Holmes wrote The Ultimate Sales Machine, which is an incredible book. It's, of course, available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. You're going to buy this book. The entire book is highly recommended, but want you to focus on chapter 6, the Dream 100, which we're going to focus on next week. This is how we network, like how we turn things that we love and people we want as clients into clients. And chapter 9, the nitty gritty, which is kind of the day-to-day, how we're going to get better at getting the repetitions. As you're reading the book, note down on your printed calendar what your top lessons were from the book. What are the things that you're going to implement? And start kind of brainstorming on who it will be on your Dream 100, because in next week, we're going to start that Dream 100 list, which ultimately was a source of roughly 1/3 of my new clients. Okay, so let's quick recap here. Practice delayed gratification every day, really in everything that you do. Anytime I'm looking for some kind of dopamine hit or some kind of reward, do one more rep before that. It could be as simple as like before I eat meals at home, I do 5 push-ups. Like anything at all, just practice delaying that gratification. Print your prospect tracker every week, the same time you print your physical calendar. Personally invite 10 people to your next event. If you don't have an event upcoming, invite 10 more centers of influence to meet with you that we talked about last week. Practice your response to concerns about market collapse. How are you going to respond to that in a way that is instilling wisdom and is not arguing about the future? Start reading The Ultimate Sales Machine. We're only going to focus on this book for a week, so I would focus on chapter 6 and chapter 9. Now, let's cover a bonus. If you're really wanting to grow, if you're saying, hey, Matthew, I don't want to wait years or decades to add another 100K to my income or to reach 7 figures, this is your bonus activity, which is to look better on Zoom. As I joked at the beginning of this video, I don't consider myself a especially handsome guy, so I need to take all the advantages I can, which is, as we talked about in other videos, why I try to dress really sharp. Zoom meetings, if you're especially have virtual clients, it's really important that it be a conducive environment. Like just like heaven forbid you wouldn't let your office be dirty or the lights be out in your office or something like that when people came in to meet you in person. Same needs to be true for Zoom meetings. So, or whatever platform you're using. So a couple of things you're going to want. You're going to want to have really good lighting, which is not necessarily expensive. These on the left are the exact lights that I use in my office. Like right now, if I turned my webcam, you could see these exact lights. I also have my ceiling lights turned down or turned off completely because, as you can tell, I get a glare on my head. Some of you don't have that problem. These lights are pretty big, 30 inches each. They require some room. They're just the ones that I use. If you don't have that much room behind your desk, get something else. But lighting 2 lights, 1 from each direction, makes a huge difference. You don't want to have shadows around your eyes, right? Or big shadows one or the other, especially those of us with big noses. We don't need a big shadow on that thing. We also want our background to look good. No fake backgrounds, virtual backgrounds. People can always tell their virtual background, and it creates distrust. Your brain subconsciously realizes, hey, there's something that's not authentic or accurate in this scene that I'm seeing, and it causes us to have issues. Have a real background. This was a cheap sound deadening picture that I got on Amazon. That's a stand-up thing. You don't need that. These are 2 pieces of furniture. This is all cheap stuff. We're talking like IKEA level stuff. If you don't have any fashion design, which I don't, ask someone who does, or take a screenshot of this and take it down to IKEA or your local furniture store and say, hey, listen, I want something similar. Can you help me out? That will make a big difference. This camera is my current favorite webcam. It's what I'm literally using right now. It's an incredible camera. It's the best I've used as far as automatically finding the frame, zooming. It's 4K. It's high resolution, and it's super easy. I just plug it in. There's no settings that I need to adjust. So, my friends, buy quality lighting so you look good on Zoom. Have a quality camera. Again, these are not expensive. Have a real background, not a fake background. And as you're learning Zoom, stand up in your meetings, elevate your desk, pile up books. I don't really care what it takes. Stand up in your meetings. All right. So these are our action items for week 3. Again, based on my experience and the 100 advisors I've coached, if you do these things every week, you'll knock out the 100K challenge, no problem, and you'll be well on your way to crossing 7 figures of income, which will take some time, but the faster you move, the faster you'll get there. And until next week, happy planning.